Welcome to turn 6 of Port Arthur from Command Magazine number 19. I'm covering here starting in September of 1904. I don't have a picture for this turn, but I'll just tell you what happened. The Japanese got another reinforcement. The 6th Reserve landed by naval transport to Takushan. They also collected a few replacements with the replacement points that they had. But then, as expected, the Japanese player redoubled his efforts to capture Port Arthur. And as we were seeing from the prior battles, it's very bloody. And both sides suffered losses as expected. But at this time, the Russians lose 2 steps, which is pretty significant. The East Siberian 7th, which we saw right at the beginning of the game, is now wiped out. And the Japanese 4th Infantry Division also suffers a step loss. So this adjusts the victory point total to Russia 27, Japan up to 12. You might recall there was fighting in the north of the map near Liaoyang, and this assault is resumed against dug-in troops. And again, both sides lose a step, and the Russian troops do manage to hang on to the position and to hang on to the town. And so this adjusts the victory points to Russia 28 and Japan 13. And there are no further attacks by the Japanese in that portion of the turn. Then into the Russian part of the turn, the 9th Infantry arrives. This is a division at Mukden as a reinforcements. That will be useful in the future, and it just simply is added to the entrenched forces that are already defending the area of Mukden. Also, the troops at Port Arthur are just going to remain in their position to try to hold out as long as possible and collect those victory points for Port Arthur, so they don't launch any attack to weaken themselves. Also, the Russian position at Liaoyang is still collecting victory points, so it's not really in the interest of the Russians to counterattack, and they're going to wait and let the Japanese have the burden of attack. Then in the strategic movement segment, the Japanese 6th Reserve pulls out of the port and uses strategic movement to march north to support the attack at Liaoyang, so it crosses the Tang River. And the Russians, of course, as expected, don't use strategic movement. They're just remaining pat and collecting, again, the geographic victory points, which is 4 points so far per turn. So this changes the score now to Russia 32 victory points to Japan 13. Now we're going to go on to turn 7. October of 1904, and I think I'll go down to the map for this. So the Japanese forces have no reinforcements in October, and Port Arthur, of course, is still under siege, and we know it will fall soon, so the picture shows that. It's just a matter of time. To the north, the Japanese commander is determined that he's banging his head against the wall at Liaoyang, so he decides to try to outflank the position to the east and to attack the Russian cavalry on the flank. Despite the determined attacks, Port Arthur remains under Russian control up till now, but this time the attack is supported by the Japanese Navy, and they can do shore bombardment, and the Japanese attack is successful this time, and the East Siberian 4th Division and the fortress garrison are both eliminated. And the Japanese only lose 1 step. So this changes the score now to Russia 33 and Japan 15. And then to the east of Liaoyang, the Japanese forces do assault the Russian cavalry. This is a 5-1 assault, and the enemy cavalry force is eliminated. So this changes the score now to Russia 33 victory points, Japan 17 victory points. During the Russian portion of the turn, the army receives the 71st Division and the 55th Infantry Division at Mukden. And these units dig in because they know what's coming, waiting for the Japanese army. Then during strategic movement, the Japanese units in the south that have captured Port Arthur start to redeploy toward the vicinity of Mukden. So the 1st and 2nd Cavalry Brigades cover the east and west flanks of the Sanzu River. And this time the Russians only gain 2 victory points for their geographic holdings, and the Japanese collect 2 victory points for holding Port Arthur. So this changes the score to Russia 35 and Japan 19. Anyway, that brings the October 1904 turn to a close, and thanks for watching, and stay tuned if you want to see what happens on turn 8.